The date is August 9th, 2014. You have just arrived at the Canfield Greene Apartments complex in Ferguson, Missouri, soon after Michael Brown was fatally shot by police officer Darren Wilson. Your goal is to explore the environment by walking into three different kinds of beacons. Colored beacons will display comics of the eyewitness testimonies that were broadcast by the media immediately after the shooting. White beacons will display photos of the evidence gathered by forensic investigators, and black beacons will play audio of the eyewitness statements made during the grand jury trial. The colored beacons are linked together chronologically by arrows and must be visited in the fixed order displayed. The black and white beacons can be visited at any time. All of the geographic locations are based on research and data gathered at the scene, though in some cases, witness beacons have been approximated. I was going out, I was working, and I walked outside. I seen the two young guys walking down the street on the same sidewalk, and my initial thought was, wow, that's a big dude. Because Mr. Brown, Mike Brown, he's a big guy. He's tall and like stocky build, and that's it. They both walked past me. They were walking east when I first seen them. I mean, I could have shook the guy's hand if I wanted to. That's how close they were. I took my tools, I came back outside to get some more stuff, and I looked down the street, and I seen the police car at a slant, and I seen Mr. Brown in the window of the police car. It appeared as they were wrestling through the window, and one gunshot had let off, and Mr. Brown took off running. My first thought was like, oh my gosh, did I actually just witness a police officer being murdered? Because it took a while for the police officer to get out of the car and pursue the suspect. And I want to say maybe 6 seconds, but it seemed like it was for after the first gunshot. Mr. Brown is running in the middle of the street at a slant. He was turned, about to make a turn, like he was gonna go into the driveway. Actually, he did turn into that first driveway, and then he stopped and came back towards the police officer. At that point, he has his gun drawn at a raised point. When he fell, he came into a line close enough distance with him. It appeared that when he did raise his gun, that he's telling this guy, giving him a command. And at that point, that's when I see Mr. Brown. He stops, he turns around. I never seen him put his hands up or anything. He didn't get down on the ground or anything. He turned around and he did some type of movement. I can't recall the movement that he did. I don't know if it was to pull his pants up. I'm not sure if he pulled his pants up or whatever. He did, but I seen some type of movement and he started charging towards a police officer. Maybe I want to say he was 15 yards away and may have gotten 5 yards before the police officer fired his first shot. I think he fires 5 to 6 rounds, and Mr. Brown was still standing up. My thought was, he's missing this guy this close? Is he hitting him, or because Mr. Brown, there was no reaction for him to show that he had been hit.
I was first. I was across the way on this porch on the second level, and when I heard the first shot, that's when I went down to the lot. I heard 2 shots, and then that's when I ran down to the lot to see what was going on. And Michael Brown's on his knees with his hands up, and he was being shot up. And then he fell. The officer just got out of his truck, SUV rather, and then that's when he stood up over the boy and just emptied his clip.
Okay, as I turned into Canfield, actually sees some confusion going on between the officer and Mr. Brown, which was stopped traffic. So I was like sitting out wondering what was going on. I seen they had Mr. Brown from inside his vehicle by the neck and by his shirt. And I see Mr. Brown struggling like to get back from his choking. And before I knew it, the officer had held on to Mr. Brown. He had put his firearm and shot Mr. Brown. That was the first shot. Mr. Brown get loose. That's when he runs approximately about, I say about 10, 15 feet. He gets loose from the officer after the first shot. The officer fired more shots from his vehicle.
I was walking down Canfield, and I got to almost the entrance of the leasing office when I saw the officer back his van up and hit the two boys. Immediately, his friend took off, and his name Mike, he started like fighting with the officer through his window. I didn't know why they were fighting though, why they was fighting through the window, but you heard the first shot and all the cars on the street stopped. They started backing up. Then he started running. He stopped halfway and turned around, and that's when you heard the rest of the shots. And he did have his hands up. People wasn't just saying that. He did turn around and put his hands up. The first thing that I saw was the police car, because usually
I heard a gunshot. It caught my attention. When I looked to see what was going on, police was running after a young man that was running in the direction toward that way. He shot again, shot the individual in the back. I don't know what part of the back he shot, but he turned around. Mr. Brown turned around and literally put his arms up in a fashion where, my understanding, that means surrender after being shot. The officer, has his arms up already, and he continued.
we was pulling up on Canfield Drive, going into the Canfield Greene apartments, and I seen an officer in his cruiser, which was an SUV. I seen a young man standing near the cruiser. We heard 2 shots fired, and then you seen him take off down the street. Officer got out of his cruiser and chased him, and the man turned around, and the police officer stopped running, and the dude started running back towards the officer, hands balled up. And
I used to live in Ferguson. I have a cousin that lives in Ferguson, so I went to go see him in them apartments. I guess I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, going to see my cousin.